Hi there, welcome. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracey. I'm with the National Weather Desk, giving you an update here on Idalia, which is now a tropical storm. That 5 p.m. update came out from the National Hurricane Center a short time ago. I'm going to share with you the latest information because there have been some changes not only to that strength, but also to those watches and warnings and some of the threats. We're seeing a little bit of a shift in those threats for now. So let's take you straight to the radar here and show you exactly where Idalia is. This thing's been trucking along through the day today, moving pretty quickly. And now that center of circulation, that eye with tropical storm Idalia, is 40 miles due west of Savannah. You can kind of see it here on the radar. It's also about 115 miles west southwest of Charleston, South Carolina. So you can see most of that rain is spread up through the Augusta area into Columbia. There have been reports of severe weather, including tornado reports coming out of South Carolina. We've seen confirmed tornadoes now in South Carolina. A video from Goose Creek, South Carolina, showing a tornado touching down there. Now, Tropical Storm Idalia winds are 70 miles per hour, so it's still relatively strong as far as tropical storms go, but it is weakening with that interaction with land, so a little bit of good news there. But we are concerned still with that tornado threat as we go through the next several hours. Take a look at the satellite imagery here because this is unbelievable. We still have Franklin out there, and then you can really see Idalia moving through southern Georgia and into South Carolina here over the last several hours. So take a look here. It's quite active on the National Hurricane Center's map. We have, of course, Idalia, Franklin. There's Tropical Depression 11 out there, and a couple of areas that they're going to be watching here over the next several days as well. So the key message is now for Tropical Storm Idalia, we are watching that potential of flash flooding, storm surge, still a concern, but certainly not to the extent that we saw this morning as it made landfall. So about 7:45 this morning, it did make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane right through that big bend of Florida. We saw storm surge reports in the several feet. Those are still coming in here this evening, but certainly going to be devastating once we see a little bit more of the damage and the impacts that were felt there in the big bend of Florida. Here's the latest cone, although at this point the cone becoming a little less relevant. That long-term forecast, very uncertain, but now tropical storm moving off the coast later tonight. And I really think by early tomorrow morning, impacts no longer being felt about much of the East Coast. Maybe still some lingering rain and coastal impacts there in North Carolina tomorrow morning. But there it is right there, that center moving into South Carolina over the next couple of hours. Most of the rain has been on the north side of it, though. So those bands of rain have been moving through both Georgia and South Carolina over the past several hours. There's that flash flood risk that remains for portions of Georgia up through really the Midlands of South Carolina, all the way up into the Grand Strand there, and then also eastern North Carolina, Wilmington, up to the Outer Banks. So heavy rainfall still expected in some of these areas, as you saw there on the radar. And storm surge still a possibility. We're still talking about perhaps a couple to a few feet of storm surge. The main concern is going to be during that high tide this evening. We have that full moon tonight. So places like Charleston, South Carolina, the peninsula flooding very easily. In fact, take a look. I want to show you where we are right now. Let me refresh this graphic. But this is the tide gauge for Charleston Harbor. And they are predicting a tide at a level of 8.7 feet, which, if you notice, there's in that pink zone, which means major flood stage. And if I scroll down here and you look at historic crests, the last time they saw a high tide with that level that high, it looks like it was back in about November of 2018. So it's been about 5 years since Charleston has seen water levels that high there in the harbor. If that does happen, that's predicted for this evening. So it's all about heavy rain potential along coinciding with that high tide this evening. So we'll be watching for that. The other concern that we've been watching for is that threat of tornadoes. So still tornado watches in effect for portions of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, mainly along that coastline. And I want to take you through the timeline here before we do leave because this is going to move pretty quickly out of the area. So take a look at that. That low, that center of Tropical Storm Idalia moving up the coastline there in South Carolina over the next few hours. And then this is by overnight tonight. That center is getting closer to North Carolina at that point and then moving off the coast completely by early tomorrow morning. So this is about 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We are seeing that center off the coast at that point. Still getting some onshore winds, though, in places like the Outer Banks. So surge still going to be a concern there for places like the Outer Banks. And then completely seeing an end to that rain by about later tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. We should see that rain come to an end completely. So that's a little bit of good news there. Moving quickly, we are going to see this really start to weaken over the next several hours as well, but still some concerns in some of those areas in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So stay safe. We'll continue to bring these updates to you. But now the latest here, Idalia, a tropical storm. Those winds are now 70 miles per hour, and it is moving pretty quickly through South Carolina over the next several hours.